Yeah, there should be. It was muted.
Sorry, can you hear us now? Oh, I think it's working. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Sorry about that. Cool. So Jobin or somebody, actually, never mind. Yeah, sorry about that, everybody. We're gonna get started. But thank you so much for coming. How this is gonna work is each candidate will have 4 minutes to present their platforms, and we're gonna go in order of the roles. And then after that, we'll open the floor to questions from the audience, and they'll have around 2 minutes, depending on the length of the question, to answer. But yeah, if you are on Zoom and you have a question, please send me your question to, like, send it as a private message to me, just so that the candidates who are on Zoom can't like see the question before the here in real life. Also, Jobin, do you know how to turn that sound off? Okay. So many technical things happening. Sweet. So to get started, we'll have the candidates for VP Internal. So this year we've got Kelvin as our candidate. You can stand in the middle just so the camera can see it. And and just for all the candidates, so you guys know. What? Just so you guys know, I'll be timing it on my phone. But you can also time it. And I will give this to you.
Whenever I'm ready, okay. Well, hello everyone. And first things first, I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time out of your busy Monday evening to come watch and get to know your future council. My name is Kelvin Lee. I'm a first-year student going into biomedical engineering, and I've had some experience with the ESS in the past year. I organized the University of Victoria engineering competition in the fall, and for the past 4 months, I've been serving as secretary for council meetings. I think that this experience has given me a good idea of the inner workings of the ESS, and I'm ready to contribute more. So I'm running for Vice President Internal, which involves a lot of dealing with faculty and organizing academic supports for students. My first priority would be to maintain a good working relationship with faculty and collaborate with them on projects that can help the student experience. We've already seen some of that last year. Faculty is helping out with the makerspace that we hope to get running next year to provide more opportunities for students to create things and have experience creating practical projects, as well as the peer-assisted student success program run by the faculty to give freshmen and first-year incoming students a better idea of what their degree looks like. I think that by working with faculty, we can continue to create more experiences with funding to improve the student experience at UVic. It's also just a fact that we're a campus organization, and without good working relationship with faculty, we can't get a lot done. Just purely, that's a fact. In terms of the existing supports that we have, such as the final review bank or peer tutoring, what I would like to see is better advertising of those things and having them be better accessed. Right now, in order to know about it, you kind of have to go on the website, go through a bunch of menus to even see it mentioned. I would like to see that advertised on campus through posters on walls to really get the idea out there in students' minds. Additionally, I want to make sure to revive the faculty representatives this year. The needs of a software engineering student and a mechanical engineering student are going to be different, and try as I may, I cannot talk to the thousands of engineering students on campus and understand their needs on a deep level one-on-one. That would take way too many hours of the day. So having proper delegation and making sure that the faculty representatives are listening to their student body and that we are all communicating on a regular basis is important to me. I would also like to make it easier for students to express their concerns through an online form on the website that will be easier to approach than having to compose an entire email if they have any concerns about faculty. I also want to establish a co-op help program in collaboration with the Vice President Corporate next year. Vice President Internal has historically been really focused on the academic side of things, but here at UVic, we have mandatory co-op. So your academic terms are only going to be half of your degree. Co-op terms are just as important. And I think that having review sessions where you can get tips on your resume or just job search tips in general could be very valuable to first-time co-op searchers. Those are my plans as Vice President Internal. And also just as a voice on council, I want to make sure that EDI is at the forefront of the ESS's operations. From what I've seen in the past year and from what I've heard from years prior, the ESS has experienced a good amount of growth coming out of COVID, and I'm looking forward to seeing that trend continue and increase. We have good events and they're growing, but I want to make sure that they're not just growing, but also growing in a way that is welcoming to every member of our community. We don't just need more of the same type of people at events. I want to make sure that everyone feels welcome at them. Thank you for listening to my platform.
Awesome. Thanks, Kelvin. I also realized I didn't actually explain what this role is before Kelvin started speaking. I'm going to try and do that for the rest of them. But just to give a brief overview, essentially Vice President Internal deals with anything internal related to UVic's academics, faculty, any of that sort of thing. They serve as the main liaison between students, like ESS Council and faculty, advocate on behalf of engineering students, coordinate with student discipline representatives for all the different engineering disciplines, and assist in kind of all the other roles in facilitating tutoring programs, any academic services that we offer, and ensure that we sort of are following the Constitution and policy as well as we can. So thank you so much, Kelvin. Actually, we'll have you stay up here because we'll open the floor to any audience questions that you guys have. Yeah, Alan?
So in your platform online, that you're obviously in the Senate and DEI. I just want to know what strategies you're going to do to balance that while also doing.
So I'll give you 2 minutes to answer.
That's a good question. I don't foresee it being a problem with proper time management skills. There shouldn't be too much conflict. So that just involves using calendars and to-do lists in an effective way to manage the time. I think it's something very doable. In fact, I think that they complement one another instead of taking away from each other, because a senator's role is also to advocate on students' behalf. And I think would actually help me develop connections with faculty more quickly and be able to advocate on more than one front.
Any other questions for Kelvin? Yeah, Kai.
How do you plan to faculty and other university education to get education back to ESS?
I'll give you 2 minutes. Whenever you're ready. Feel free to think about it. There are no internal candidates on Zoom, but I can pass the microphone around after.
Okay, I'm ready. So from what I understand, the fight to get orientation back has been a long one, and I will do what I can on that front. I don't know if that's something that I'll be able to complete entirely within my term. I believe that that's a very important thing for the ESS and helps bring people into the engineering community and have more engineering culture. I think one of the most important things is managing faculty expectations and maintaining good relations. The reason that orientation got taken away, as I understand it, is that it got a little bit too extreme and illegal. And I feel like assuring faculty that it'll be a good, welcoming event that draws more students than gets us in trouble with the police is one of the most important things in order to get orientation back.
We had one question from Zoom that I will just take before I take Sam's. And then, so the question from Zoom is, how do you propose getting faculty and staff to be interested in helping out ESS students?
So that's the phrasing of that question is actually one that I don't love. I think that the faculty is already invested in helping out ESS students. It's good for the university to have good student supports and good student culture. It's in their best interest to increase recruitment numbers. So I don't think that'll necessarily be a difficulty on that part to get them to care. What I will be sure to do is to make sure that they're going about it in the right way. I believe that they have students' interests at heart, but I would be there to tell them what students do actually, or in that case, do not value, to make sure that the resources that the faculty is spending in order to help the lives of students is being spent in the right places.
And we'll take Sam's question and then that. Oh, okay, awesome. Did anybody have one last question for Kelvin before we move on? Sweet. Well, oh, one more.
This is a bit of a joke question, but how are you going to deal with faculty that are just being completely unreasonable? You know, sometimes you just have to deal with that. What are your tools for that?
Obviously, that'll depend on the specific situation. So I'd like to believe that for the grand majority, a thorough explanation of the pros and cons of specific courses of action would be enough to convince reasonable faculty. If they're, like you're saying, being unreasonable, let's say that there are a high number of student complaints about their course and they're just not fulfilling their jobs well, I would then have to go to their superiors and talk very firmly on student needs. I'd have to be firm in my position.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. We will have to end it there for VP internal questions, but we can give Kelvin a huge round of applause. I also did forget to mention earlier that because of the limited time for each of the roles, every candidate is submitting responses to some pre-prepared questions that will be uploaded onto our website as soon as we get all the responses. But yeah, moving to the next role, we will go to VP External. There is only one candidate who is live, so I will just have them go first. And the others, unfortunately, couldn't make it live today, but I have videos of their platforms. So Samyukta, whenever you're ready.
Wait, I'm going first?
Yes, because you're the only one who's here live. Actually, sorry, I have to explain the role first. Just 1 second. Pulling up my notes. Yeah, so VP External, this role essentially acts as the main liaison between the ESS and sort of external organizations such as the Western Engineering Student Society's team, which is pretty much the engineering society for all the Western Canadian engineering schools, and then also for the Canadian Federation of Engineering Students, which is that organization, but for the whole country. They serve as a representative at multiple conferences across the country throughout the year. They help select engineering students from UVic to go to these conferences. They also are in charge of planning the University of Victoria Engineering Competition, which happens in the summer and the fall semesters, and coordinating the winners of that going to the Western version of that competition. They also are just typically experts on policy writing and help us write that in a very concise and clear way. But we will pass it over to Samyukta whenever she's ready to give her speech.
All right, hi. Thank you so much for coming. My name is Samyukta. I'm a second year electrical engineering student. And I'm currently the equity officer on the ESS Council. So I've been interested in the VPX role for over a year now, and I've worked towards it. So I have a lot of experience with several VPX duties, including chairing the selection committee for national conference, stepping up as head delegate with no notice and no guidance, successfully leading a delegation of first-time conference goers, half of whom were completely new to the ESS, and voluntarily attending West meetings and general assemblies whenever I had the chance to. So throughout these experiences, I've developed a lot of meaningful connections with students from other universities, which will help facilitate my collaboration with regional and national student organizations. I've also become very well versed in policy and procedure. And on top of that, my experience as equity officer and the faculty's EDI rep will enable me to advocate for all students on a national level. So my main goal as VPX is to expand the role and fulfill and develop all aspects of external relations. So I really want to focus on collaborating with other engineering student societies on events, workshops, and charity fundraisers, and learn from other schools and bigger schools to really focus on bringing back our engineering culture to UVic. So one main thing I want to focus on is orientation. I was in the year that did have orientation for the first time in a long time, so I can speak firsthand to how important it is for students. So we can really learn from other schools and improve and develop orientation here at UVic. Additionally, I want to continue the efforts of the current VPX to follow through with the implementation of the makerspace and also learn from other schools who have gone through this process to identify obstacles and how we can overcome this, because the makerspace would be a super useful thing for all students. As well, the University of Victoria Engineering competition, in terms of overseeing that, I want to make sure it's run in an unbiased and fair manner, and make sure that the competition coordinator, the judges, and everyone else volunteering or in charge of running it understand their responsibilities and are conducting themselves in a professional manner so that students are not negatively impacted by it. And that's just from experience in the past. And then in terms of connecting with EGBC, something that I've already been discussing with our current VP corporate is incorporating more opportunities for students to connect with industry through co-op opportunities and guidance, as well as career fairs. On top of what we already have is our industry night. And then another part of my platform is identifying limitations in conference accessibility. So I want to focus on advertising to members outside of the regular ESS in a way that highlights the importance of conferences. So I think that we can do this by documenting and including examples of past sessions, pictures, schedules, to give students a better idea of what the conferences entail and encourage them to apply. I also want to focus on identifying barriers in the selection criteria. So working to develop individual rubrics based on what we've done in the past and what other schools do, as well as making sure our selection committee members are impartial. So I think we could do this by documenting who's been to which conferences and who's been on selection committees to make sure we're forming a selection committee of students who have the appropriate knowledge and experience to make decisions on who should be attending these conferences. And I also want to make sure that we're developing a meaningful system to share knowledge gained at conferences with the larger student body. So we could do this by having a debrief meeting and then providing publicly available head delegate reports so that more than just the few people that attend are able to gain from this. And lastly, I want to make sure that I'm continuing to develop methods of gaining student input to represent a more diverse demographic, such as continuing my efforts to have a town hall meeting to identify large scale issues that I could then advocate for. And I want to make sure that sorry, am I over time? Okay, sorry. I want to make sure that I'm presenting my ideas in a rational, concise, and collaborative manner. I have experience doing this being the voting member at faculty meetings. And lastly, I just want to make sure that I'm advocating on behalf of all ECS students at conferences, applying my equity officer and VPX experience. Thank you.
Thanks, Samyukta. Okay, I have to get the other people's videos, which is going to be a fun time. All right, the next candidate is Sarah Keegan. she's obviously unable to be here right now, so we have her video. There's too many tabs, bro. Like, how do I share it once I do this? Hang on, this video is gonna be posted online for people to watch later. Do I need to share it on the Zoom? I don't know how to do that. I know, but that doesn't share what I want. But then it's not full screen.
Okay.
It looks good right now.
I don't know what you mean.
Are you looking for a reliable leader with
Can you guys hear the video on Zoom?
Are you looking for a reliable leader with experience?
We can hear.
Are you looking for a reliable leader with experience, drive, and commitment who will follow through on their promises and advocate for all UVic engineering students, including you? I am the right candidate for you. Hello, my name is Sarah Keegan. I'm a second-year biomedical engineering student. I am delighted to be here today running for the role of Vice President External for my third year on UVic ESS Council. Previously, I was the first-year representative, and I am currently the Vice President Internal. I have been on the UVic ESS Council since I started at UVic, and I am delighted to continue. What makes me qualified for the role of VPX is that I have attended the three main conferences, EM, EGMR, and CALC, that the VPX is responsible to attend. At these conferences, I have attended and listened to the General Assemblies, the meetings between the representatives from all the different schools, and then I have discussed the policy and the changes that are being considered and then have been implemented with the VPXs from the other schools. So I am very well versed in policy writing, conference culture, and WEST and CFES, the regional and national organizations. I also attended a WEST meeting and voted on behalf of UVic when our VPX was unable to attend, and I was one of the CALC 2022 Conference Selection Committee members. I have three main goals as VPX. I will be an effective and approachable liaison between UVic engineering students, the regional and national organizations, WEST and CFES, as I mentioned, and other schools. I will work to provide opportunities for ECS students to foster connections outside of our organization, and I will continue developing our own ESS run orientation like in 2021 and ECS week by consulting VPXs from other schools. To be an effective and approachable liaison between UVic engineering students, the regional and national organizations, and other schools, I will assure that we send a more inclusive and diverse conference delegation that will benefit several engineering students, not just those who are involved in the ESS. I will accomplish this by working with our current VPX to finish the conference selection terms of reference, a metric-based, less biased method for choosing delegates. I will develop a simple and informative way for delegates to share their learning with the UVic ECS community, and I will ensure that important changes at the national and regional levels will be easily accessible on our website so that all students can be up to date on changes that impact them. I will also effectively advocate on behalf of the UVic ECS students to WEST, CFES, and other organizations by using my experience from advocating to faculty as VPI. Currently as VPI, one of the main priorities of my role is to assure that the student voice is heard in the Faculty of Engineering. I attend regular faculty meetings with faculty members and the dean, and I make sure that the student voice is prominent and that I advocate for students. I have experience advocating for students, and I am going to use this experience in this role. To provide opportunities for ECS students to foster connections outside of our organization, I will assure that UVEC is organized, run, and judged in an accessible and unbiased manner. I will develop a competition similar to UVEC for computer science students, and I will provide opportunities for computer science students to be involved with other schools and organizations. I will work with the VP Corporate and EGBC to restart our student industry networking events, and I will continue supporting the Canadian Engineering Accreditation Board in reviewing UVic's programs. This is something I did as VPI also. To continue developing our own ESS run orientation, I will consult the VPXs or representatives from other schools about what works well for them and what worked well when they were first starting to become involved in orientation and their weeks. And then I will implement these ideas in our own version of it. Finally, I've got the experience, the drive, and the commitment to represent UVic engineering and all of our students. Vote for Sarah Keegan to make it happen. And don't forget, West is best.
Okay, I need to find the last video.
Are you looking for a reliable leader?
Yeah, so that was our second candidate, Sarah Keegan. We have one more candidate, but it's on my email. So I don't really want to show everybody my email. But I don't know.
Projector off button on them.
Okay, sorry guys, just give me 1 second.
Turn off.
It's fine. Okay.
Defensive.
All right. So our third candidate for VP External, his name is Jasper. He also can't be here today, but we have a short video for his platform as well, if this will work.
My name is Jasper Hellerson, and I'm running for VP External. Unfortunately, I can't be here today because I'm preoccupied being an academic weapon at my Eng 141 tutorial. VP External is in charge of connecting UVic's engineering community with that of other universities in Canada. With that in mind, I believe VP External's most important role is managing and overseeing UVic's participation in conferences and other engineering events. I was on the council this year, and often I felt that ESS didn't fully represent the student body as it should. Conferences and events weren't advertised as well as they should have been, and oftentimes the people who were selected to go to these were all council members. I plan to make the ESS more inclusive and have more people who are not involved with the ESS have the opportunity to travel and connect with other schools. I plan to make the ESS a better representation of all the engineers at UVic, not just those on the council.
All right, so that was our third candidate for VP External. We will now open the floor to questions for our candidate who actually is here live today. Yeah, Kelvin, I'll just pass you the mic. So
You talked in your platform about making clearer selection criteria for conferences and making it more objective. So what did you have in mind for what makes a good conference candidate?
Sorry, could you just, what was that very, very last part? A good conference?
Yeah, so in your mind, what defines a person who should be getting sent to these conferences?
Okay.
yeah, I'll give you 2 minutes to answer this question.
Okay, so can I just start whenever? Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, so I think that it depends on what the conference is. So we have the conferences that are more engineering leadership based, and then we have conferences like the Conference on Diversity and Engineering and the Conference on Sustainability and Engineering that are a little bit more focused and more specific on one topic. So I think for those ones, a little bit more important to have, I guess, passion for those subjects and a genuine interest in it. In general, I think that a delegate for a conference needs to be someone who is going to represent the UVic community accurately. So this means not just people from council, someone who has a broad perspective and has different sort of, I guess, experiences that will allow them to represent different aspects of the engineering community at UVic. And also someone who, I guess, is able to, I guess, represent UVic in a way that they're able to like make connections with other students and like get share their own experiences relating to the conference, so that they're not just learning things, but they're also sharing things that other students can learn from. And I do think that something else that's important is being interested and actually passionate about the topics. And like I said, that's kind of maybe more important for the specific conferences. But I think when you have that like genuine interest, you will be more engaged and you'll be able to take back what you learn and want to share it. And then tying into that, something else that's really important is having like facets or actual opportunities to share the things you learn. So I think something important is like if you're involved in like clubs or communities, ways that basically you can share what you learn to the general like student body, so that as many people as possible are gaining from you attending this conference. Thank you.
Awesome. Did we have, oh, we have a question.
Wait, can I just, okay. Sorry, I was just gonna say like that is kind of similar to one of the questions that are being posted online, right? So people can also refer to that.
Yeah, like I mentioned before, there are written questions that all the candidates will be responding to on the website. But Sam has another one over here.
All right. So one of the main duties of VPX is to be a head delegate at a bunch of different conferences, which is something that a lot of people, it's kind of like overlooked. You need a lot of responsibility. So what do you think are some of the qualities of a good head delegate, both for being one and for selecting one at a conference you're not attending?
Okay, should I start, Jess?
Yeah, I'll give you maybe 1 minute to answer this. Actually, 1.5 minutes to answer this one, just because this question is also one of the ones on that you've written.
Did you say 1.5 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think an important thing, first of all, is experience. As you mentioned, it's a very, very big role. It's very crucial because you're in charge of a lot of things. And to do it like at a first time it requires a lot of like management and just being able to like make sure everyone's doing what they're supposed to do and also make sure you're doing what you're supposed to do. So I would say experience is really important. Another important quality is I think their inclusivity and their ability to represent a diverse like student body or group. So being able to like not only advocate for everyone, but also to be able to be in charge of your delegation and make sure that they're feeling included and making sure that they understand what's going on is really important. And another thing that I think is really, really important is having someone who is able to conduct themselves in a mature and responsible manner. You are representing the entire university to all the other universities in Canada. So making sure that you're actually mature and responsible and reflecting well on UVic and our engineering community is something really important. So those are the things that I would look for personally. And I think those are the important qualities of a head delegate.
Thanks, Yumikta. We have one more, or we have one question online. Um, uh, that question. Yeah, the question that was asked by Tavian, why was it only council members that were chosen to attend calc meeting and other off-campus events? I am going to ignore this question just because that isn't actually true. There were many new students who have nothing to do with the ESS who were able to attend the calc conference and off-campus events. We are always trying to get new students involved to attend conferences. You just have to apply when we send out the application forms that go to all engineering students. But did we have another question for Sumikta? Well, and this will have to be the last one just so we can move to the next candidate.
Part of the VPXing is going to be being a head delegate to a lot of students, including managing like first years who go to a conference and get just too much of either like just become a bit too much to handle. How are you going to be handling a group, especially when going to a conference like AGMR, where you have a delegation of like 10 or more people, and a lot of them are first years?
Can I start?
I'll give you 2 minutes to answer this question whenever you're ready.
Okay, so first of all, I think it's really important to acknowledge that I have been a delegate before, and I think having that experience, especially without like any notice, it was thrown on me like at the conference. So I was able to adapt and like do a really good job just basically on the spot with no notice, with no guidance, with no like prior experience. So I think first of all, I'll just say that and say that I think having that experience, I've sort of learned like what needs to be done and like what I can improve in the future. So I think going into like a future conference, I have that like starting point. But specifically like in terms of say like a conference like AGMR or like with a big delegation or delegation of first years, I think the most important thing is to make sure that everyone understands what's going on. I think that can be like a big area of confusion. So I think this means having a pre-delegate meeting and having it be well in advance, not rushed, going over all the rules, all the expectations, what's going to happen, going over things like conference culture, just because that's where a lot of things get confusing for people, and making sure everyone understands what their role is, what like basically what's going to happen at the conference. And I think that if there still are problems, making sure that they understand the role of the head delegate and that, you know, I'm or like the head delegate is in charge of them. So being able to approach them even during the conference and, you know, like telling them that they need to like do whatever that they're not doing. So like that's how I would address it like in the context of the conference. And also like if we have problems like that, to have meetings or like documentation afterwards to address those issues and try and improve them going forward. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Sumikta. That was the last question for our VP External. I also see that the pizza is here, and before everybody freaks out, we're gonna take a break because I know you won't pay attention unless you are eating. And we will come back in a second. I'll just turn the Zoom off so you guys don't have all the noise and video and stuff, but we'll be back in about 5 minutes. Okay, we're gonna get started here. So if everybody could please sit down. Okay, welcome back. Our next candidate will be VP Finance. So this year we've got Julian as our one candidate. Essentially, VP Finance is responsible for managing our budget, our finances, believe it or not, processing invoices, also like giving expenses back, stuff like that. They make a budget every semester and are in charge of sort of presenting that at our semesterly general meeting. They also keep track of things that we spend over the term. Pretty straightforward. There is a big description on our website as well if you want to read more about it. But we will pass it over to Julian to talk about his platform.
How close should this reach my face? This good? Is this good? Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Julian Edwardson. I'm a second-year mechanical engineering student, and as you heard, I am running to be the Vice President Finance of the Engineering Student Society. My platform hinges off of three main things. First of all, accountability, growth, and then stability. So let's talk about accountability first. And I know before I start, like everyone and their dog promises accountability these days. It's easy to say, but I have a track record to back it up. For the past year, I have been a director on the University of Victoria Student Society Board of Directors, which is a $16 million organization. There, I have been successfully fighting for financial accountability. I have ensured that funds are going to the things that students need the most, and that we are not overspending, and that we're putting money towards the things that actually matter. I'm going to continue my successful track record with the Engineering Student Society to ensure that we get the most value from our student fees and that our money is well spent on the things that we really care about. Next, growth. The Engineering Student Society is going to be experiencing very large growth in the near future. As we move to accept computer science students into our community, we are going to have to deal with the new challenges that faces, but also the new opportunities. The challenges include having to address the needs of an entirely new community that we've never actually had to address before. That's going to mean that we're going to have to move money towards the things that they care about and that the sort of combined community cares about and matters to. But there also are opportunities that come with this growth. That means that the expanded budget that's going to come from the 30% increase in the number of students is going to give us far more opportunities to run events, to run services, and to expand our capacity to serve students. And this is something that I feel confident that I can preside over and manage. The last thing that I want to talk about is stability. And this takes the form of financial stability. So that means that we are running a balanced budget, that we're not overspending, that we're not keeping a large pile of money hidden somewhere, but that we're being reasonable and balanced. That means that money is going towards a vast array of things and is well allocated to all the things that we value and we care about. So summarize, if you value growth, if you value stability, and if you value experienced accountability, I think you should vote for me. So thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Julian. We'll open the floor to questions. If anybody wants to ask anything.
This is a bit of a silly question. Okay, the serious question first is, you have a lot of experience with the UBSS and other organizations, but you haven't really volunteered much with the ESS, not that much. How are you going to kind of work that transition of experience you've gained from the UBSS and other organizations into being an ESS council member?
Awesome. I'll give you 2 minutes to answer this one.
Thank you for the question. It's a good one. To be honest, I have not been on council before, and I haven't been an executive before. So 2 things to address that is that, first of all, being in the UVSS has given me sort of a top-down insight into how to look at the broader organization. And although it's not direct experience, it is a lot of knowledge about the ESS. It's not direct experience, I'll address that in a minute, but it's the sort of knowledge about how the organization works in sort of the technical sense. To address the sort of my lack of experience with the ESS is the fact that I'm going to be on council with a crowd of people, and I know a lot of people who are executives, and it's, to a certain extent, it's a learning experience. There's a learning curve at the beginning. And that's something that I'm ready for, to learn from the people that do have experience. We also have things like transition docs and discussing with past council members, current council members, to really get that experience and insight into the organization that it is today. Did that answer your question to a degree? Awesome.
Oh, Kelvin's got a question.
So you talked about fiscal responsibility in your speech, balancing the budget, preventing overspending. Are there any concrete steps that you have in mind currently to tackle that, whether that be certain policies or cutting things from the budget, ways of raising revenue, anything specific in your head? Okay, awesome. Thank you. Again, thank you. Very good question. So a few things to address that is that we can, as you said, creating policy is a good way to do that. We can make further policy or expand our current policy on how we run events to ensure that budget overruns or cost overruns for events or any other thing that's operation that's run by the ESS is properly accounted for, and then finding a solution for that immediately rather than just sort of saying, okay, well, that's a negative number in our budget. So addressing that, finding immediately where that money is coming from, and then making sure that it doesn't just sit in the corner accumulating. Because if we have a bunch of budgets or a bunch of events and a bunch of services that are all losing a little bit of money and we all sort of just let them be, then we end up losing money over the long term. And that's something we can address on both a case-by-case basis and both sort of overall as sort of a blanket policy for our events.
Sweet. We'll take one more question.
Do you have any plans to make the makerspace a reality?
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. So absolutely, I'm a huge supporter of the makerspace, and we'll absolutely look into ways to get that funded, options through the SYNCANT. I believe the current council has a plan already, and so it'll either be a case of expanding that or adding to it. But absolutely, I will see the makerspace funded.
Yeah, just to add to that, there's been a lot of questions about it. We already know how we're getting the money for it. This council has already talked about it, just so people know. So we're working with the faculty on that. Is it a short question, Sam? Okay. In that case, thank you so much, Julian. Round of applause. Who is next? Next we have our VP Student Life. This candidate is also unable to make it live. I just need to pull up their video, so give me 1 second again. Just a little introduction to the VP Student Life role. Yeah, so the VP Student Life essentially is responsible for everything involving engineering student life at UVic, which includes communication with the engineering clubs, the merch, mental health initiatives, ESS services, the ESS office and lounge space, and overseeing just creating a positive engineering community and culture here at UVic, and just helping build that and grow that with the inspiration from other schools. So essentially they are the main contact and oversee clubs funding and the engineering clubs day. They also manage the locker registration, which is something we've been working on making a little bit easier. And just, yeah, generally oversee making it a positive community here at UVic and making it better. So we've got one candidate. Oh, this isn't showing anything. For this role this semester. And I'll get their video up and ready.
VP of Student Life is in charge of overseeing club funding, creating a stronger engineering community, and providing better ESS merchandise. As VP of Student Life, I'm going to make sure engineering clubs get the funding they need and the promotion they need to create a more encouraged environment for students to join said clubs, such as the Rocketry Club or the Biomedical Club. I'm going to make sure they get the funding they need. I'm going to make sure the club managers are happy. One big change I want to implement is a new event called Food for Thought. At this event, students can come to the student lounge and talk with ESS council members, while at the same time being provided with free food and snacks. They can talk about anything they would like, including changes they'd like to see made to the ESS. As your VP of Student Life, I'll make sure we can make new and better engineering merchandise. This will be done by allowing students to submit and vote on designs they would like to see in the engineering store. A vote for me is a vote towards better merchandise, more events, and a strong community. It's time for change.
All right, that is our only candidate for student life right now. And obviously he's not here in person, so we can't open the floor to audience questions. But as I said before, he is writing responses to some pre-made questions that will be put on the website that I encourage you to take a read over before submitting your vote. We will now move to our candidates for VP Communications. So yeah, so VP Communications is responsible for communicating anything that we're doing out to the student body. This includes events, news, stuff like the council candidates debate. They also are in charge of maintaining the ESS website and social media accounts and working with the directors on making that happen. They're in charge of sort of building our brand as an organization. They are also in charge of any advertising material that we put out, so posters, publications, stuff like that, working with the director of publications on our newsletter. And yeah, they maintain, or they create and edit just any regular communication via email or otherwise with the student body. We've got two candidates. We've got Erin and Caitlin. They're both here in real life. This is amazing. So I'll give you guys each four. Oh, I have to flip a coin to see who goes first. I don't actually have a coin. We can just do rock, paper, scissors. That's more fun. All right, Caitlin is the winner. So we'll start with Caitlin for the platforms.
Okay, can everyone, is the mic yeah, okay, perfect. Okay, hi everyone. My name is Caitlin. I'm a fourth year software engineering student. I've also been the graphics coordinator for the ESS since September, and this semester I was also the industry night coordinator. So I got to help out with running industry night. And through my roles with the ESS, I learned a lot about just like working under VP Comms, what we are doing really well in terms of communicating with students and what we could improve a bit on. So my goal as VP Comms would be just to facilitate clear and consistent communication between the ESS and the ECS student body. So I have three main ways of accomplishing that. The first way would be to update the website. When you think of an organization, a lot of the times, pretty much every time actually, that you have a question about them or you want to learn more about them, people would go to their website. Same case for us. And so I think our website should be very clear, very accessible, have all the important information in an easy to find spot. So I'd like to completely redesign it, make it more accessible so it works on any device. It should have alt text and work with screen readers. The IRC form should be in a more prominent position on the website as well. And I would also like to work with the director of IT to get our old ess.uvic.ca domain name back, just so that it's easier for students to get to our website and then learn about our events. Having updated event calendars also is really important. Yeah, so updating the website. And then my second idea is to have a communication schedule. So that just helps communication to students be more reliable and consistent. So if people know, for example, that for any given event, we'll post on it about Instagram a few days before, or we'll put up posters outside the ESS office on the bulletin board a week before, they can just walk by and know that can check in and see what is going to be happening. And so that can help increase turnout for our events, which is always a good thing. And also just have students feel like we are very consistent with our communication and they can rely on us to relay like what is going to be going on if they want to come out to our events or come help out. And then lastly, I would like to reinstate the newsletter, which it's kind of happening now, but I want to advertise it more and also bring more support to the newsletter editor, because I feel that the newsletter is a really great way for us to be able to connect with the students. But it's also a really big job for one person. And it's very helpful to, help connect the newsletter editor with like club executives or, other council members or even faculty members who have like more idea of what's going on in the faculty and what events and things are coming up and how people could start getting involved with other initiatives, just so that students have a reliable kind of like platform to just read all the updates in one spot. So yeah, to summarize, my three main ideas are update website, communication schedule, and bring back the newsletter and have it be more consistent. And that's everything for me. So thank you.
Am I good to go? Okay, sick. My name's Aaron. I'm a first year software engineering student. Like Caitlin, I'm also a graphics coordinator this term and last term, and this term, I guess, too. I'm also a first year council member. So my goals for the semester, again, are very similar. The website is long overdue for a complete facelift and domain name change. I think it's really important that if the ESS wants to have good advertising and communication to everybody, that we should be able to have all of our information easily accessible from the front of our website. Right now, if you go on it, first of all, you have to find it. It's at onlineacademiccommunity.uvic.ca/ESS. No one knows that. It's so much easier just to be able to type in ess.uvic.ca. And I think it's really important to do that. On the front page, I want to be able to have easy access to the exam bank, because honestly, not too many people, like when I've talked to at least, know about it, that there is an entire exam bank where everybody's able to see it. So I want to put that at the forefront, as well as making it easier to making it easier to find events, recent, upcoming, and past, just so people can get a better idea of what the ESS is doing. Another big, I guess, goal of mine is to increase the social media presence that the ESS currently has, whether that is to kind of, I guess, boost our presence on LinkedIn or post more on Instagram, whether that is just posts reminding us about events or more stories, just engaging with the community so everyone knows kind of what's going on in engineering at UVic, not specifically just ESS. Yeah, that's kind of my platform. Oh, and the newsletter, sorry. Right. It's really important that the newsletter, I guess, gets redone because we haven't been doing a lot of it recently. So I think a good way to kind of, I guess, engage more people into actually reading the newsletter and also allowing it to get put out a lot quicker and, frequently is by kind of reworking the structure of it into more short form content. Because like realistically, it's kind of hard to say focused sitting and reading through a bunch of big wall of text if there's not a subway surface video like right underneath it. So instead, just to kind of like appease everyone's short attention spans, if we make the newsletter a little bit shorter, easier to consume, that way we can also post it on Instagram, LinkedIn, and just have it in like a few slides maybe for people to go look at. We can get a little bit more word out and also, engage more students that might not know about ESS or ESS events, anything that's going on. That is my platform.
Thanks, you guys. We will open the floor to questions. Also, for the people who are new joining on Zoom, if you have a question, send it to me personally, just so that I'm the only one who gets the questions and like I can just read them out. I think Chris was first. We had Caitlin start last time, so we're gonna switch to have Aaron start this time. And I'll give you guys
Yeah, well, obviously, there's not really a super clear-cut way to do it, but my plan at least is to work with not just myself, but also engage some of the graphics coordinators in helping get just more general resources to restructure it and then just, I guess, I don't know, redesign it from the ground up using the tools that we have. I know we're working with WordPress right now to design it. So I know WordPress has a lot of tools to build websites. I guess just editing all the CSS to make it look more modern. Again, making more mobile friendly, I guess, mobile friendly layouts. Because when you go on it right now, everything's really small. So just, I guess, reworking it by redesigning it and testing it, implementing things slowly, seeing seeing how they kind of turn out, how people like them, gauging reactions and all that to eventually do it. It's not a just one and done thing. It's going to take a while to do.
Okay, yeah, so I was thinking I would actually like to move away from WordPress completely because I find the plugins can be a little hard to work with and it's a bit difficult for us, especially with the limitations that UVic places on like the UVic WordPress accounts to get the kind of like look and features out of the website that we want. So I'm thinking just for like ease of maintainability in case we have a VP comms that doesn't know web dev in the future, use Google Sites. And then it would also be easier to do things like integrate a Google Calendar that we can update so that the events calendars are always up to date, which has been a consistent issue in the past because our events do change around a lot and we usually like put them into pictures and then put that up on the website. So yeah, using Google Sites, I think would be my solution to that. Otherwise, just redesign the website to make it like putting all the important information on the front page will be another really important one. And then reducing the number of like sub menus on the website, which is a big issue now, where you have to dig in like 3 layers deep to get to like the charity event page, for example. So I think that's how I would restructure the website.
Awesome. Kelvin, did you still have a question? Okay, awesome. We'll go to Sam and then we'll go to Alan.
I know you guys are talking a lot about how we can redo the website in terms of its aesthetics, but what kind of content do you think that we need to overhaul on the website? Is there anything that you think can be taken off, put on, improved on? What, on the content level, how can we rehash the website to improve it?
I'll give 90 seconds for this one, and we'll start with Caitlin this time.
Yeah, so in terms of content, definitely removing all like old event pages or updating them immediately after the event happens, so that people know like whether it's current or not. I think also putting the newsletter, giving it its own like area on the website. And what else? I was thinking of something and it's gone now. Yeah, just like maybe doing more. We do have like blog posts on our website, but we don't use it very often. So I think also having like a little blog post section where we just post like, hey, this event is happening. We just utilize that more because I think that's a really nice place people can just click on it and see like in chronological order, like what's been happening, what's new versus like what was kind of like happened in the past. Yeah, so I think that's mostly what I would envision for the content overhaul.
Yeah, so I think in terms of content, the biggest issue for me, at least on the website, is at least when you first go to it, the lack of. There's a lot of white space that's just unused. And ideally, my vision, I guess, for the website is when you first open it, you see like put in your face, big ESS logo, right? And links to the exam bank, information about the exam bank, order of pie, or something else important if it's not like around that time, and information about it. And then also, if we get the newsletter up and running, the newsletter at the forefront. There is, I guess, if you dig through a lot of old content, which can be, I guess, archived, but not removed, in my opinion, because then that way, if we format it nicely into like a past events or ESS history, we can put that somewhere in the website that's accessible. But I think the main issue is that although there is content, it needs to be actually displayed in a way that you can see it, because I've spent a decent amount of, not decent, but like a little bit of time on the website just looking through before here to prep, and it's really hard to find stuff just in general. And when you do find stuff, there's not a lot of information just to begin with. So making it more accessible is important.
Awesome. We'll go to Alan next.
So I know that putting up posters sometimes has been rushed in the past and not as organized as it should be. How are you guys planning to address this?
We'll start with
Yeah, so I guess usually, I guess how it goes to get a poster up is someone will message Slack and say, who's that Zap copy? So I think a good policy that might be useful to implement, obviously we'd have to test it out, see if it actually works or not, but making, I guess, soft deadlines for the posters internally. So like, okay, we have the event at this time, either myself or the graphics coordinators finishes the poster and we get it done before a certain time, and then included in that deadline is allotted for somebody to go to Zap copy, print it out and put them up. Just, a little bit more organization and structure.
Yeah, so I talked a bit in my platform about having a posting or a communication schedule. So that would include finishing posters, printing posters, putting up posters. And so I think just having those deadlines kind of set out beforehand is really good. And then also just like as VP Comms regularly checking in with the team and saying like, hey, like, how's it going? Does anyone need any support? And doing that early enough that in case anyone does need help, it's not too late for us to help them. Like if somebody is super busy that week, totally fine. Then like someone else on the team can definitely take over the poster. But just knowing that that needs to happen before we are like there and we're like, wow, we need to post the poster today. Where is it? And it's not done. So I think like catching that problem earlier. And then, yeah, just like knowing, like planning out in advance, like, okay, which one of us is going to go print the poster. And then maybe like a few of us are going to be at school the next day to put it up. So yeah, just having that schedule, I think would help a lot as well.
awesome. I think that's all the time we have for Oh, is it a short one? Okay, we'll do one more question.
It's tradition to ask this question to the VP comms every year. What are your thoughts on the Oxford comma?
I'll give you guys 30 seconds to respond to this one. I can't remember who's going first.
Yeah. Okay. Oxford comma. I like the Oxford comma. I feel like it breaks sentences into more readable chunks. And so it just makes it easier to read information, which is very important when you're trying to communicate with people. You want it to be as easy to read as possible.
Yeah, Oxford comma is sick. I use it all the time and I'm a big fan. No complaints.
Thanks, you guys. Yeah, we'll move on to the next role. But great job. Next, we have the equity officer. So just a little intro about equity officer to start. So essentially the equity officer's main job is to ensure that the ESS is acting in or as equitable and fair a way as possible. So they essentially find ways to support sort of minority and marginalized groups within the engineering community and the engineering industry as a whole. Other main jobs are to research potential changes the ESS could make, whether that's events, services, general space, even just like how we promote ourselves, reviewing the ESS operations with sort of equity, diversity, and inclusivity in mind, and also manages the incident response forum and incident response committee. If you don't know what that is, we have a form on our website, which we've talked about making it easier to find, where students can fill it out if they have ever had any incident that they would like to report or get some support on. And that is handled by the incident response committee, managed by the equity officer. They also manage the student EDI committee, which meets monthly to sort of discuss any changes that could be made within the engineering student community and within the faculty as a whole. So we will get started, and our candidate Naomi, I'll give them the floor.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Naomi and I'm running for the ESS Equity Officer. I'm a second-year computer engineering student and I've been volunteering for the ESS as a DAL for the last 4 months. I'm incredibly passionate about making sure that every student feels that their voice is heard. And so I would like to make sure that we focus on EDI, especially during such a transitional period with so many new members. My policies focus on 3 main points here. I want to strengthen the ESS's commitment to EDI and our communication with advocacy groups. I would like to promote safe and inclusive ESS events and work with people like the VP events and VP comms to make sure that all our events are well promoted and inclusive to people of all identities. I would also like to make equity, diversity, and inclusion training more available to more students, not just council members. As equity officer, I want to focus on strengthening our relationships with advocacy groups, such as Women in Computer Science and Engineering and Leadership Through Diversity. Making sure that the Student Equity Committee has the resources and representation that it needs to perform its duties and represent all students, especially with things like incident response forums and that sort of thing, is incredibly important. Because if we can't protect our students, we're not doing our job as the ESS. I would also like to focus on making our events more inclusive and open to all students. Making sure that our volunteers have proper training, especially for high-risk events like EEE, is incredibly vital, and there have been incidents in the past where we have not had the proper time to train all our volunteers. Working directly with people like the VP events would be really nice here, because then it allows us to have the time and resources to talk with all of our volunteers and make sure they're all trained for any problems or just to make the event more fun. I'd also like to work on just tweaking the events a little bit. For example, Order of Pi I volunteered in this year, And I felt that there could have been a lot of changes to promote more inclusive language and kind of update it to get with the times, really. Things like that are small changes that we can make to make all of our events a lot more open and inclusive to everybody. Thirdly, and potentially most importantly, I would like to focus on listening to all of our students. As a second-year engineering student who's talked with people in the ESS for 2 years now, I've always felt represented and respected, but I know that there's always room for change there. I want to listen to and hear the opinions of any students that have concerns or just ideas, and it'll be my top priority to implement any sort of changes that we need to in this area. I would also like to expand our equity, diversity, and inclusion training beyond just ESS Council. It is incredibly important, especially with so many new members running, that we make sure that all of the council members are perfectly trained in this sort of thing. But I'd also like to expand the resources that we have and talk with the organizations that offer it and see if we can offer that kind of training, not just to the council members, but the student body at large. Because promoting EDI is not just important for the ESS, it's important for all engineering and computer science students.
Thanks so much, Naomi. We will open the floor to questions. I don't think you can read from that way. I was gonna try. I was always ready to.
Something our current equity officer has worked on a lot is trying to expand the role of equity officer, especially with regards to sustainability within the ESS. So do you have any plans for continuing this expansion and working with the current equity officer to continue their work with any sort of sustainability or, just that kind of thing?
Awesome. I'll give you 2 minutes to answer this question. Yeah.
That's a really good point. I think that talking with the current equity officer, going through transition documents and seeing what sort of ongoing projects is going on is, of course, an incredibly important part of a new position. And I would like to continue supporting all the current projects that I think are important for sustainability, because obviously there's going to be ongoing projects that need to be worked on, and making sure that that transition is as smooth as possible is incredibly important. I think I would also like to look at creating new opportunities for that sort of expansion in sustainability. But that will involve talking to the current equity officer, talking to different advocacy groups, and seeing what sort of things need to be made top priority and what sort of things need to be continued from the previous term.
Any other questions? Sure. We'll go to Tim.
How do you plan on fostering a more diverse environment in the engineering student society?
I'll give you 2 minutes for this one.
That's a really good question, and I think that's incredibly important. We obviously have a very diverse faculty already. I know so many people of different identities and experiences, but in terms of the ESS, I know it can get a little bit cliquey sometimes with the same people all the time. And I think that making sure that our spaces are inclusive and open to everybody and even well promoted. Some engineers don't even know that the lounge exists as an opportunity for them to go and meet new people. So I think that in terms of promoting diversity in the ESS and just engineering in general, it's going to be really important to make sure that we all understand our own part in that sort of thing, making sure that we all understand inclusive language and that kind of thing to make people feel welcome and included and respected, as well as just making sure that the current council has the training that they need to help anybody with different problems or different things that they could want to ask about. And if we create a more inclusive council, we create a more inclusive engineering faculty.
Was there any other questions? Melvin?
You talked about collaborating more with both WEX and LTD. What does that look like for you in terms of just how would you do that?
I'll give you 2 minutes for this one.
That's a really good point, because I know that there have been issues in the past with transitions between different terms in those groups, leaving us without a person to communicate with. And so if one of those organizations can't get back to us in time, that means that we have one less position on the student equity committee, and that's just less representation that we have in general. So I think I will double down on getting in touch with people who I need to and making sure that those organizations know that I'm open to communicating with them and open to working with them on both internal things with the ESS, as well as projects that they need support on. Because if they don't have the support and representation that they need to do their own jobs, they're not going to feel like they should or want to help us with our with student equity. So doubling down on making sure that everybody knows that I'm here to talk to, ask questions to, give concerns or suggestions or anything like that that they need. It's incredibly important that the ESS shows that they are willing to listen, learn, and include everybody that they need to.
Awesome. We will take one more question for now. Abdul always wants the last question.
Takes time to think of one, you know. Part of the equity officer position is working with the faculty to get a more equitable engineering and computer science experience. Seeing that both the faculty and each of the departments have their own EDI committees, and we've been asked before to kind of help consolidate all the resources. What are some ideas you have to kind of deal with the fragmentization of all the different resources that are being put into EDI?
I'll give you 2 minutes for this one as well.
That's a really good question. And I think that fragmenting resources like that, even especially in a more unified department like engineering, it hurts more than it helps in terms of fragmenting it between all the different kinds of engineering. Because yes, all the different disciplines have their own needs in terms of equity, diversity, and inclusion, but we all have our own needs as engineers as a whole. And I believe that consolidating those 4 different groups would do more good than harm in terms of helping everybody share resources and knowledge. So I think I would definitely want to work with the current equity officer as well as all the individual equity committees that these departments have, and working with them to consolidate that would be a top priority for me.
Awesome. That was our last question for Naomi, but a huge round of applause. Moving to our next candidates, we have VP Corporate Relations. So we've got 2 candidates here. Just pulling up a quick intro to the role. All right, so as in the title, VP Corporate Relations essentially is our main point of contact between the ESS and like engineering students and industry. So all those engineering companies that you want to hire you, these guys would be the ones who are our main point of contact with them. They assist council in securing sponsorship for anything that we need. That includes things like UVEC, office improvements, conferences, events, all that sort of stuff. They are the main points of contact for any services that we might want from industry, such as our Fernwood Coffee. That's a company that VP Corporate sort of talks to, and they're mainly responsible for gaining experience in communicating and networking with business, both in engineering and otherwise. So they're the main point of contact. And yeah, I kind of covered everything. So we will have another rock, paper, scissors battle to see who goes first, and then we'll alternate from there. So. All right. Uh-oh. Yeah, we'll start with Makai. You can put this one in your pocket and flip it to your shirt.
Does this work? Okay. Can I start? When can I start? Okay. Hi, thanks for coming. I'm Makai. I'm running for VP Corporate Relations, as was already said. Excuse me, sorry about that. My goals for VP Corporate Relations is to establish a network of alumni to increase student and the ESS's relations with industry. Sorry. I believe I would be good for this position because I have attended events hosted by EGBC in the past and Asher, giving me connections with industry already and experience in those sort of events. As stated earlier, my goals are to get an alumni network, which would allow us to get donations and more connections with industry, as people who are in alumni are now in industry, and they can also provide more information to current students, along with helping students get more access to industry. So returning industry night to what it was like before COVID, helping get more people to attend, get more funding for events like UVEC, and donations for ESS's events like the Order of Pi. Additionally, I would like to improve the ESS's connection with the industry through, again, more events and communication so that we can get more deals like we have with Fernwood Coffee, which allows us to get a discount so we can reach out to companies that the Engineering Student Society currently makes a lot of interactions with and try and get more discounts and sponsorships from said companies, as there are lots of opportunities that we can take for that through plenty of companies. Additionally, with returning industry night to what it was like before COVID, it would allow students to increase their own personal contact with industry and help them with their own knowledge of how to deal with themselves in said situations. And we are an organization with hundreds of members, so we can leverage that to get more long-term support from sponsors, as one of our issues currently is we don't have sponsors for prolonged periods of time. However, because we have so many members and we constantly get new members, I believe we can utilize that to get longer sponsorships. So hopefully, if elected, I could get to work on that and complete both an alumni network before my term is complete, and help with industry night and getting more sponsors for anything that the ESS needs funding for. That's real.
All right, I'll just hold it. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming out here tonight. And I'm glad you stuck around. My name is Tim Asaudi. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm a second-year software engineering student. I've been involved with the ESS since my first year, starting off as social media manager, then moving on to secretary and running UVEC, or helping with running UVEC twice successfully. So I think I have a good experience with how it's like to volunteer and work here. I want to run for VP Corporate because I think I can make a big impact in this position. The main responsibility of VP Corporate is to foster and maintain corporate relations with industry. And I believe our best bet is by maintaining a substantial online and social media presence, by keeping our website and our social media updated, specifically professional media like LinkedIn. So I aim to work with our VP communications and our social media manager to maintain clear communication. Additionally, I hope to compile a list of our current sponsors, our current and past sponsors, and reach out to them frequently with upcoming events and initiatives to gauge interest. And on top of that, I aim to establish and run events like career fairs, industry mixers, and co-op workshops to help students build stronger relationships with industry and obtain valuable experience in their education. One of my hopes is to create a co-op review board where students can speak about their experiences at past companies and positions. I think this would be valuable as it is something that's not offered by the co-op office, especially now since there's been complaints about certain positions being unreviewed. Additionally, I think it would be good to expand on our tutoring board and create a sort of student-to-student job posting board where co-op positions, research opportunities, new grad positions, and the such can be posted. I hope to improve our budget for events and conferences and to obtain incentives for employers to sponsor us more frequently. Thank you for listening to me. That's it.
Awesome. We'll open the floor to questions. Does anybody have questions for our VP Corporate? We'll go to Alan.
So obviously you guys deal a lot with corporate relations. But how do you guys see yourself working with the co-op office to help grow the network of corporate relations?
I will start with Tim this time, and I'll give you guys each 2 minutes.
Thank you. I hope to work kind of as a complementing factor to the co-op office. So the co-op office already provides a lot of useful services to their students, but obviously there are things where they legally cannot help with. I hope to create more of a personal experience when it comes to getting a co-op, like industry mixers where the students can speak directly with the employer instead of the way the co-op office does a lot of its events where an employer presents to the students. And I also hope to have the co-op workshops where students can work with older students or like higher level students to help with applying for positions and finding good opportunities.
I'm in a very similar position to Tim. I think that we should help fill in the areas where the co-op office cannot step in or have failed to do so. So if we can provide services the students need, such as more workshops and help them prepare in ways that the co-op office can't, along with getting them in contact with people in similar disciplines who have worked in areas that they're interested in or for companies that other students would like to try and apply for, so they can get advice on how to apply, how to present themselves, and what skills are useful and necessary. Additionally, working with the co-op office, we could get a list of companies that have previously hired co-op students and maybe reach out to them for sponsorships and stuff like that to increase our personal network as the ESS, so our professional contacts, along with helping students see which companies have previously hired and which ones they have a good chance of applying with and that have good reviews. So we can create a system like that to work with it.
Thanks, you guys. We'll go to Sam. I also have a question.
One of the VP Corporate's duties is to work with EGBC and communicate with them and other professional organizations. So how do you plan to better leverage the ESS's connections with EGBC to better benefit students? Because I don't think that a lot of students we don't interact with EGBC or EGBC stuff a lot. Like we hear about the code of ethics in first year and 130 and then like that's it. So how can you better leverage that connection to benefit students?
I'll give you guys each 2 minutes and we'll start with Makai this time.
Having previously attended events hosted by EGBC, and speaking with some of the people who work there and work with them. We can get a list of events that are open to the public, and we can advertise that through our website and through our social media. Additionally, the only real way it seems for students to get involved is to become a student member. However, we could work with them to make a modification of that and make it more general, get more information up about EGBC for us so that we can go through it and putting stuff on our calendar that they're doing so that we can have the interaction between the ESS and the EGBC and work with events and maybe schedule events with them in tandem. So hosted by both the ESS and EGBC. At the event that I went to, I was speaking with the chair of the EGBC in Victoria, and they expressed interest in working with us for events to sort of increase our ability to help the members of the ESS. So that would be another way to work with them to increase what they provide for the students.
Thank you. To add on to what Micaiah said, like I mentioned earlier, I aim to keep all of our industry partners updated on upcoming events and initiatives. So I hope to incentivize EGBC to cooperate more with us by letting them know about upcoming things we're doing, whether they participated in them previously or not, because they might be interested. Additionally, I hope to advertise their events more vocally and incentivize students to attend and represent the University of Victoria so that they are more, so they want to cooperate with us more and perhaps even run events in tandem with us, as Micaiah mentioned.
Awesome. Does anybody else have any questions? Okay, I have a question. I haven't really thought of how I'm going to word it though. I guess, like, what is the #1 quality that you personally would use when talking to an industry member? Like, what do you think somebody, just like you're an engineer, like what quality would they best respond to, and just like a student talking to them? And yeah, how would they make you like them or make them like you, essentially? And I think Tim is starting with this one. I'll give you guys each 2 minutes.
I think being able to speak like you're on the same level with the professional you're speaking with really helps. Usually people in industry are used to students looking up to them or looking for something from them, but being able to connect with them on a more level ground and creating a one-to-one relationship usually helps them open up and be more willing to help out with what the student wants and create a deeper connection.
Yeah, exactly what Tim said. Just speak to them open and honestly and have a conversation. You are both there to talk to each other and take something away from your interaction. So working with them and having a conversation rather than looking at them as something to get something from, they tend to be very responsive to just conversations, and it can be very interesting as well to just speak with someone in industry who knows more than you and then give your own opinions and have a conversation, which I believe is the best way to speak to people in industry and make good connections, because you are speaking to them as a person and they're speaking to you as a person rather than someone who knows everything and someone who's trying to get something.
Were there any other questions? Sweet. In that case, big round of applause for our VP Corporate. Great job, you guys. And we will move to, I believe, our last person. Yeah, our last candidates for the evening. So VP Events. We've got 2 candidates for VP Events. One of them, unfortunately, is in class right now. So I have his video just as a little introduction to events. Finding my notes. Yeah, so the ESS obviously holds a lot of different events, large and small, VP events essentially is in charge of scheduling them, organizing the teams, and working with other council members to make sure that these events happen and run smoothly with all of the volunteers that are involved. Their job is to make sure that events are as inclusive as possible and prioritize enjoyment of the events. So they're in charge of scheduling, organizing at least one charity event per term. Obviously, we have Bug Push is our summer event. Order of Pie is the spring event that just happened, and we're working on getting Siege Week back for the fall. That's coming soon, hopefully. Ensuring that events, they're in charge of ensuring that events are safe and fun for all attendees. And yeah, just generally making sure they're a great time and working with the teams to do so. So we will start with Pavan because he's our candidate here in person, and each candidate will get 4 minutes.
Actually, is it okay if I just speak without a mic? We're all okay? Do we have to?
I can hear him.
All right, we'll do something like that. Okay. All right, I'm gonna be pretty casual about this. I think most of you guys know me. I'm the very loud extrovert in the ESS, right? I'm Tavin. I study biomedical engineering. I'm one of your peers, all right? So I'm pretty interested in this because I like being a part of this community. School isn't just a place where I go and study, all right? I come in here and I'm with my friends. This is like one of the best experiences where I can come and be among people I like. And I want to extend that by making cool events. I know that Siege Week was pretty sore for last year, so that's one of the main things I really want to try working on this year is getting Siege Week back because that's pretty badass, right? We all like Siege Week, right? Right? Okay, there we go. Man. Whoa. You guys are up here. You need to bring it down here. We're having way too much fun. Okay. Order of Pie was a great time, right? We all had a good time with Order of Pie, and it's one of the best ones that we've had so far, right? Yeah? Okay. I'd like to keep that momentum going. Keeping the events as wide for the student body as possible. Getting students being able to know about where they can find us, how they can find the events. It's pretty awesome, right? Triple E, it's sold out in like what, 5 hours? 5 hours, guys. That's awesome. That means that we're having a lot of big student engagement, and I want to keep that going. So I want events to be bigger and more cohesive. That's really what I want. I want to have more student engagement because the more people that are out there, the more fun it's going to be, right? More charity we can raise, things like that. Because we all like it when we have all of our friends out there, right? Right? Can I get some nods? Okay, yeah. I'll pass it off to the video.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pavan. Yeah, and just give me 1 second again. Awesome. You guys can see this.
Hello, my name is Jack Godfrey. I'm from Canmore, Alberta, and I am running for the VP Events position on the ESS Council. I enjoy hiking, skiing, hitting the gym, and generally staying active. I'm in first year engineering and plan to specialize in mechanical in second year with the intent of working in the automotive industry designing new vehicles. Teamwork is very important to me, and I have lots of experience working with teams, from simple event planning in my high school to planning a gala with the Alberta Children's Hospital that raised over $20,000. All of my prior experience with event planning is what makes me feel like I am a good fit for this position. Having a strong engineering community at UVic is very important to me. I want every engineer at this school to feel proud to be a part of this community, and this starts with the events that bring us engineers together. Amazing engineering events already exist at UVic, such as the E-Day Polar Plunge and Fresh Social that happened at the beginning of the semester, to the engineering formal nights and mixers, and the recent pub crawl, although not available for many first years, including myself. I plan to introduce a multitude of events that are fun and accessible to all engineers. These events will be entertaining for all years of engineering as my goal is to create a community not only between the separate years of engineers, but a community between the entire faculty. Through this, younger years can receive mentorship from older years, and the Faculty of Engineering can feel even more like a family. My first plan as VP Events is to plan a Frost Welcome Week for the beginning of the fall 2023 semester. My plan is to have games, live music, and different events for all the engineers throughout the week. This event will be accessible to all years of engineering and can potentially merge with the Engineering Clubs Day if possible, so that the engineering clubs can receive more attention due to there being a fun event that they are present at. This is just the first of many things to come if I'm elected, such as more engineering barbecues, live entertainment events, pizza nights, and movie nights throughout the semesters, as well as more accessible ways for engineers to meet with the upper years to receive guidance on what they would like to do with the future of their degrees. I know this is a lot of plans that require a lot of preparation, but I will start my work over the summer so that everything can be achieved by next year. I've also taken inspiration from the University of Calgary's Schulich School of Engineering, which gives a scarf to all their engineering students upon arriving at the school. I believe that doing something like this would create even more of a community and provide something special about being a UVic engineer. To do this, I would partner with VP Student Life to create a special, unique, complimentary piece of clothing that can be ceremoniously given to UVic engineers. This piece of clothing has yet to be decided. To have all these events, a team of volunteers is required to make everything possible. Therefore, I will team up with VP Student Life and VP Communications to advertise future volunteer positions. I will utilize social media advertising and an online sign-up to make it simpler to apply for volunteer positions and to make it easier for first years to get involved with the Engineering Student Society if they would like to. Thank you so much for listening to my platform. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. And remember to vote starting March 29th. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, that was great. We will open the floor to audience questions, and then for a candidate that isn't here, he has answered some typed up questions that will be on the website as well for you guys to see. We'll start with Kelvin.
So as I understand it, the role of VP events is in large part a lot of delegation and supervising other people. Usually the way it works, as I know, is each event may have a separate lead because you're planning multiple events at the same time and you're more overseeing them. So how do you do with delegation? Do you have any strategies that you plan to use to resolve that kind of supervision?
I'll give you 2 minutes.
2 minutes. All right, I'm going to be pretty cut and dry about this. All right, 5 years in the military, it teaches you a lot of things. I was a squad leader for about 5 years, so that means I had everything from 15 to 60 people under my command. Delegation's kind of second to none when it comes to it, really. That's how we rely on, and that's what I've done for the past 5 years. And now that school's a bit different and nothing really much has changed the same. So instead of having privates, I've got Dals. Instead of me being, me, or corporal, sergeant, whatever, I'm just having. So much stays the same, but much also kind of is just a new coat of paint. So it's really more or less just that, just changing my old techniques from being in the military to being here now. Does that answer your question? Yeah.
Awesome. We've got a lot of questions. I think Alan was first.
It's simple.
Okay, so how and in what ways are you planning on working with the equity officer to make events more inclusive?
I'll give you 2 minutes as well.
I think hand in hand is the best way to work, keeping, well, I guess maybe the best way to answer this is to say that VP events should be working with all the other council members that are there because we all work together as a team. There's no I in team, right? Okay. So the most important thing is that, as was mentioned previously, some of the order of pie stuff, it's pretty outdated. So working with an equity officer is a great way to kind of extend and make things into the current era. Same things for any of the other events that we want to put on, right? So it's really important that not only is the delegation important, but working with everybody else. So it's a great way to not just work with the equity officer, but everybody else who's working there, including, say, corporate, right? Getting corporate involvement for, say, the bug push. Still walking off cold.
getting corporate involvement for also Order Pie and Siege Week, right? I also need to be working with those people. So hand in hand, we all work together. We all lift the same amount and earn, and it lowers the weight, right? Okay, no I in team.
I'll go Abdul and then Leo.
I can. Just so I don't get the last word. This question is coming from me as the current VP events. What do you think? What do you think a weakness of events this year has been, and how would you improve on it for the next year?
I'll give you 2 minutes for this one.
Do you mind if I alter that question just a little bit? Okay, so one strength, I felt really confident knowing that you could put your confidence in me to run certain events, right? That was awesome. You were able to put me in charge of big operations, same with Lee, right? And you were able to rely on me in a way that I felt confident such that you could give me tasks and we could get her done, right? Makes the whole operation go way smoother when everything's broken down into little chunks. You were awesome at that. One thing I'd like to work on is just getting more DAOs, more people. Because there's a lot of work that kind of rely on maybe 1 or 2 people, broken up into more people, more tasks. Easy breezy, lemon squeezy, right? We don't want to keep doing it difficult, lemon difficult. That stinks. We want to keep everything kind of low and smooth. So smaller tasks, more people, bigger time, more time having fun, right? That's all we're here for, right? Okay. Answer your question? Yeah.
All right, double check. Gotcha. Okay. All right. For the benefit and inclusion of as much of the engineering community as possible, what do you think the ESS is uniquely capable of in terms of delivering events to the student body?
I'll also give you 2 minutes.
Okay. So what do I think? Cohesion. We're all engineers, right? Okay. We all have the same amount of hard courses. We're all going through the same amount of hard times, right? It all stinks. But that's our greatest benefit, is that we're all going through a hard time, but hard times make us good friends, right? So all of us cohesive, right? In no other degree program do you see chemistry students and biology students, you don't see them having big events together the same way we do. But for engineers, it's very different, right? Our cohesion is our strength. We can rely on each other despite us having very different courses, right? I know BME 320 is very different from say Mech 220, and any of the software courses and ECU courses, they're all different, but they're all hard and we're all going through a hard time. So we rely on each other, right? That's what makes us very cohesive, not only as friends, but as students. That's what makes us unique. We're all here together. Great question. Great question. Anybody else have any other questions? Yeah. Wow. Better be my favorite color.
Yeah, so this will be the last question.
So do you have any plans for events for all, focusing on CSC students for after the merger?
Oh yeah, that actually bangs. I'm not gonna lie, that's super awesome. Haven't thought about that, but it'd be great is if we could get a poll from CSC students and see how you guys want to integrate something. I know that there was that coding capture the flag. I heard that was a big success, right? Yeah, yeah. Browse from the back. Yeah. So getting more events like that where we can make, say, something out of our programs, maybe a themed Halloween event where we can make costumes out of our respective programs, right? If somebody comes in as a walking haunted house, I would be over the moon, right? For say the civil students, or if somebody comes in a really spooky piece of code, whoa, that's trivial. But the point is that we can have more events that are more inclusive and kind of not only diversify, but expand upon our experience as students within our different engineering degree programs. So maybe costume contests, right? Anybody else have any ideas that they want to shoot towards me for that? Feel free to. I'm always open for that. I love putting on events and I love when you guys are enjoying the events, right? Okay. Any other questions? Last closing remarks. Thank God.
Yeah, thank you, Tavin. Again, I know that video, at least in this room, for Jack was hard to hear. It will be posted on the website with the recording of this and everything. The other ones were better, but that one for some reason was really echoey. But yeah, thanks so much, Tavin. That is all of our candidates. Thank you guys so much for being here. I know it's late and this was pretty long, but it means a lot for people who stuck around and are watching the video later maybe. And yeah, so make sure you read everybody's platforms, review any videos. Voting opens Tuesday night. So Wednesday at 12 a.m. it opens and it closes Friday at 11:59 p.m. So while we are at the pub crawl, I will be checking to make sure everybody voted. But yes, please do vote, and actually make sure you're reading the platforms and everything. It's really important you make an informed decision, and get your friends to vote too, because the more votes we have, the more representative it is of the student body. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night. Thanks, you guys. I'll turn off the video. I know, I've been standing for like 2 hours.